Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Devin Carney, who is state representative from the area. Devin, welcome. How are you?
Great. It's great to be here, Pete.
And look, you're back again.
Back.
Old Saybrook First Selectman Carl Fortuna.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah,
good
Thanks
to
for
be
coming
here.
down.
You're welcome.
So, Devin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am the state representative for the 23rd Assembly District.
Okay.
I represent the towns of Lyme, Old Saybrook, and Westbrook up at the Capitol in Hartford.
Okay.
I am in my third term. Actually, I just started my 6th year. Today's actually was opening day of session.
Today's opening day.
And I serve on the Transportation Committee, the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee, and the Planning and Development Committee up at the Capitol.
Very nice. So, with today being opening day of session, how'd things go?
I was pretty smooth. In the even years, it's a short session, so it's only 3 months. So pretty much today, we mostly heard from the governor. He gave us his speech of the state of the state for the year and his priorities for the upcoming session. So I'm sure we'll see those fleshed out. We'll have public hearings on his proposals and committee proposals and things like that over the next month or so. Excellent. And then we'll get into to voting on bills and things like that over the final 2 months.
Excellent.
And we received today, after the proposal that the governor put out, the town of Old Saybrook, through CCM, which is our advocacy group that we belong to, we received our fiscal 21 indications for how much money we'll get. And it looks like the governor, thankfully, is hoping to hold all the towns harmless, basically giving them the same amount of money that they expect to have.
Oh, excellent.
Which is good. As we're in budget season, it's nice to know that we should be able to count on that money, which is not always the case. And Devin can talk about the bonding bill that still hasn't been acted on, that many towns, including Old Saybrook, we get about about $250,000 out of the bonding bill for what they call town aid road. And the governor is hoping to get his tolls program passed, and is, he's been accused of holding the bonding bill hostage. I won't call it that, but it's been delayed, and a lot of towns need that money for road plowing and road construction. So I don't know if you have heard anything about that.
Sure. So typically the bonding package is passed along with the initial 2-year budget proposal, so what would have been passed last year. The bonding bill was not passed last year for a couple of reasons. One is, as Carl mentioned, the governor does want a transportation package passed. He would like one with some sort of tolling component in it. Nothing has been passed yet, so he sort of was holding the bonding package until that got passed. At the same time, though, the governor last year proposed a debt diet, where the bonding package would be significantly less than prior years. So there has been some disagreement, I know, with the governor and the Speaker of the House and the Senate President about what those bonding initiatives are that should be funded or could be part of this reduced bonding package. It's possible we could see a bonding bill soon. I had thought maybe we were going to vote on it a couple of weeks ago, but the governor has kind of indicated we would be voting on something soon, but like I said, I haven't seen any specifics yet. So we'll see how the next couple of weeks, or actually next 3 months, pan out to see whether or not that bonding package will get passed.
Very controversial topic, as you know, Pete.
Absolutely.
Even though I believe the latest proposal is only 12 gantries and it's only trucks, the state of Rhode Island has a similar program, and they've been sued in federal court by truckers, saying you just can't target us. We already pay taxes, trucking fees, gas taxes. So this is another truck toll, and so they're saying truck tax. And so I would anticipate, and I would imagine Devin would agree with me on this, that if this toll, I think they're hoping to do it the week of the 12th or next week, if this toll package gets passed, Connecticut will also see a lawsuit from the truckers trying to get it thrown out and saying it unfairly targets them and interferes with interstate commerce. So that would be the trucking argument. But we'll see. We're going to find out. The governor is going to put it forward, and the legislature is going to vote.
Your thoughts on that, Devin?
Well, this is certainly something that the governor has wanted to do pretty much from day one of his term, which began last year.
Right.
He initially wanted tolls on all vehicles,
Yep.
And now it has gotten to the point where he has a proposal that we had a public hearing on last week with 12 trucks only, toll gantries over 12 bridges throughout the state of Connecticut. There is some uncertainty as to the amount of revenue, the amount of costs, and as Carl mentioned, certainly that lawsuit that is pending in the state of Rhode Island that I believe is before the United States Court of Appeals,
Okay.
That the trucking industry suing Rhode Island, and it's possible too that Connecticut not only could get pulled in to that lawsuit, but one of the proposed tolling locations is on I-684, which only goes through Connecticut for about a mile up in the northern part of Greenwich.
Okay.
So some folks from New York came and testified at the public hearing, indicating that they felt that was a violation of an agreement that Connecticut and New York have had regarding that stretch of road since the 60s. So it remains to be seen what would happen there. I was told at the hearing that Governor Lamont and New York's Governor Cuomo had spoken about that particular gantry. I don't know
Yep.
where that has gone since, but there is certainly a lot of controversy surrounding pretty much tolling in general, but
Right.
also specifically this particular proposal, which may be the proposal we vote on, it may not.
Right.
The legislative process, things change at a rapid pace. So I'm not sure. There was talk of voting next week. We may not vote next week. I'm
Right.
really not sure at
Okay.
this point.
The good news is
Yes.
the state is not facing the dire finances that it was 3, 4, 5 years ago that
Right.
you and I talked about
That's
when I
right.
used to come on this show.
That's right.
At least the state's finances are healthy, so that is off the table. I mean, I guess the budget's a little bit in deficit, but nothing overly significant.
Nothing crazy.
The economy's good. The national economy is good. The Fairfield economy is. A lot of people are making money down there, and I think a lot of revenues are pouring in.
Absolutely.
To the state budget. So, I mean, financially, the state is in much better shape than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But so at least you guys won't be dealing with the dire, trying to balance the
Right.
second year of a budget.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Now, Devin, explain what is the governor's debt diet? How's it work, and what is it?
It's basically just a reduced bonding package,
Okay.
really. When we had we had a bipartisan budget. The Senate was tied 18-18. The
Yeah.
House was pretty close, Republican and Democrat. We did get through a hard spending cap and a hard bonding cap.
Okay.
Now, as part of that, the governor actually wanted to go further. I think our bonding cap was about $2 billion, around $2 billion.
Sure.
He actually wanted to go down to $1.3 billion. So significant cuts of bonding, because bonding, a lot of it is like putting something on a credit card. So
Yeah.
you're going to have to pay that in the future with interest.
Exactly.
So Connecticut's out years, we still are faced with deficits in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Fortunately, we don't have to deal with that for next budget year, but in the out years we do.
Right.
So he's looking at it, well, we really need to restrict what we're putting on the state's credit card, with the exception of transportation, sort of a different animal, but we really need to restrict what we put on the state's credit card so that we can start to get out from under these perpetual deficits that come year after year after year after year. Even though we're not facing a huge deficit for the next fiscal year, it started out that way before the two-year budget was crafted last year. We were looking at a large deficit, so there made there were changes in revenue, there were changes in spending and things like that. But he's really looking to reduce that overall bonding to make sure that our future years we don't have to pay all that money back.
But the fact is,
Yes.
when you look out 2, 3, 4, 5 years, the deficits come right back. So the good news is right now, Connecticut is temporarily out of the woods. I mean, and the bad news, and I think the governor recognizes it. I'm not saying the governor doesn't. He recognized that in the out years, we're looking at another $1 billion, $2 billion deficit
Right.
that they're going to have to deal with. And, is the United States economy due for a recession? And if we are, those tax revenues that we rely heavily on are going to decrease, and those deficits are going to rear their ugly head again. So that's one of the things I'm worried about is as we go into the out years.
Exactly. Now, Carl, you being first selectman of one of Devon's towns, how closely during session do you and Devon work together?
We talk frequently. So I get bills that are introduced, and when I see a bill that affects the town or that I feel strongly about that maybe doesn't affect the town, I know who to call.
Right.
I call Devin. One thing about Devin as our state rep, and I'm not saying this because I'm friendly with the guy or anything, which I am. But talk to anybody in Old Saybrook.
Right.
They call him, they get a call back.
Yeah.
They get an honest opinion and a good, an honest response.
Right.
So during the session, I talked to Devin last year about minimum wage. I talked to him about the Family Medical Leave Act. The minimum wage, which it's a laudable goal to have a $15 minimum wage. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that as a goal, but the impact is what you have to worry about.
Yeah.
So one of the problems I had with the way the minimum wage was implemented, the first increase went through for October of 2019, and the next one is September of 2020.
Okay.
We had a budget, so that happened in the middle of a fiscal year, and now we're in this coming year's budget. We have to budget for 2 years of the minimum wage. We have to budget for the increase that occurred last year and the increase that's occurring this year.
No.
So we're kind of getting a double whammy, and just as we suspected, the hardest hit department is Parks and Rec.
Right.
Because we hire a lot of 16, 17, and 18-year-old kids.
For the summer.
For the summer. And the other impact it has is it cascades upward. So when you before had a kid who was making $10 an hour, and now is making, let's say, $15 an hour, the person that was supervising him was making $15 an hour. Now that person says, why am I making the same amount as this kid?
Yeah, right.
So I have to make $18 an hour. So the effect of that, and again, laudable goal, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it does have a financial impact on property taxes in the town of Old Saybrook and throughout the state of Connecticut. So those are the types of things that I do talk to Devin about during the session, amongst many other things.
Cool. Would you guys mind sticking around for another segment?
Love to.
Sure,
We'll be
absolutely.
right back.
Valley Shore Community Television is constantly adapting to the demands of our viewers. Busy schedules are making it hard for viewers to watch shows when they air.
Television has changed dramatically. We don't have to be appointment viewers or listeners anymore.
No.
We can do this in real time.
VSC TV has made it easy to watch all our locally produced content online and when you want it. Visit vsctv.com and click on the Watch Online tab to watch live, or visit our local show playlist to easily navigate your favorite shows anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
This world is for free. Freedom from the waves of this world.
VSC TV is your local Connecticut Mid-Shore Valley digital connection.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Devin Carney and Carl Fortuna. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pete.
So, Devin, let's open up this segment talking about transportation, and specifically transportation in the local area and how important it is to utilize said public transportation.
So certainly public transportation is something that I know the legislature in general is trying to tackle, and seeing
Yes.
how we can better improve public transportation in the year 2020 and beyond.
Okay.
You know, around here we have the Nine-Town Transit, which
Absolutely.
in the past was facing drastic cuts under past administrations. Fortunately, we were able to stop those cuts because of a lot of folks who came out and testified at
Right.
various hearings against them. Since then, they've really made some incredible strides at really getting to that sort of 21st century model of public transportation,
Right.
particularly with, in their case, bus service. One of the things they've introduced relatively recently is the Extra Mile program.
Yes.
Where they can take people who utilize the train or I think another public transportation entity.
I think so.
And get to that last mile they need to go. I think it covers pretty much all of Old Saybrook, pieces of Westbrook, pieces of Essex, and it's great for a great deal of our community, particularly getting to work, getting to medical care, going supermarket shopping,
Absolutely.
things like that, and you can all do it. You can do it on your smartphone. And I know they're trying to increase and improve their technology with that too, where you can request a ride on your smartphone, almost making it like Uber in a way. And I think that's great. And I think that it's a really good way to use technology and get more people aware of what's out there, what's available for people who may not realize that we have a great public transportation service in the area that can get you from point A to point B without driving.
Absolutely.
The number of people who ride Nine-Town Transit is staggering.
Yes.
Going up to Middletown, even out to New London, and I think Madison up Route 79 now also.
Yes.
But that last mile program's been a huge success.
It has been.
I know it is partially funded with some temporary grant money.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
We got to watch for that to make sure it doesn't go away. But you know, Old Saybrook's contribution to Nine-Town Transit is about $45,000 a year. Obviously, all 9 towns contribute.
Right.
That represents, all the 9 towns represent a very small portion, maybe 10% of their operating budget. They rely on federal funding and state funding to maintain that critical form of transportation that I know you use, Pete.
Absolutely.
It really helps those folks, some of those folks who just can't get out of the house that much because they don't have transportation. So, but it helps students going to Middlesex Community College. That last mile program is so important for some of our resorts, like either Saybrook Point Inn or
Water's
Edge here in Westbrook. That last mile. So they might take a train from New London or New Haven, end up in Old Saybrook. Now how do they get to work? They don't have to walk. They can take that last mile program. And so really good program.
And I think the last mile, I think it's called the Extra Mile. I believe the Extra Mile, they go to Westbrook, but I think they only they don't go that far into Westbrook. I think they go, their stopping point is the upper deck.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I believe that they don't, because they stop there and then they don't go any further than that on the Extra Mile.
And it's really a groundbreaking program, what they're trying to do. I spoke to Joe Comerford, the director of Nine-Town Transit, and he was telling us at their annual legislative breakfast that the only other transit company that uses this is, I guess, in South Norwalk. The town of the city of Norwalk has a sort of a shuttle that takes folks from the train stop and into the downtown area to bars and shops and things like that, trying to get them, within that mile radius. So it's not entirely the same, but other than that, as far as I know, no other public transportation is utilizing that technology. So I think it really is something that the state and all these other branches of whatever the public transportation is in these other regions should really look at. Because
absolutely.
It really is great for the community.
It is, definitely.
So some other issues that the governor identified today was the struggles we're having getting rid of our municipal solid waste.
That's right.
I may have spoken about this on your program in the past, Pete. Westbrook, Clinton, Old Saybrook, and over 50 towns and private haulers all over the state take their garbage to a trash-to-energy plant where the trash is burned and energy is produced in Hartford, and that plant is at the end of its useful life, probably in the next year or two. I sit on the board of directors of MIRA, and I will tell you that it's probably coming to a critical point sooner than 2 or 3 years from now. People like to put their garbage at the end of their curb or take it to the transfer station in Old Saybrook, and it goes away.
Right.
They don't want to know anything else. The cost of garbage has gone from $55. It's going to be $91 a ton for municipal solid waste for our towns to get rid of that next year.
Wow. Holy cow.
So, and as we all know, the recyclable market, there is none anymore.
Right.
So recyclables are now being just stored in warehouses. So the state, and the governor recognized it today in his opening address, the state has to come up with a policy. Do they want, we can ship our garbage out of state, we can send it to Ohio and bury it in the ground, but is that what we want to do in 2020? Does that seem like the most environmentally sensitive thing to do? You would think in this day and age we'd have a better policy, and we're going to have to spend some money on it, and that may conflict with the governor's debt diet, to be honest with you. It may take investment from the state and tremendous leadership from the state. And I know one of our state senators, Norm Needleman, serves on the Energy Committee.
Oh, does he?
And yes, and this would affect his town and his committee. So, for your viewers out there, I've been trying to raise awareness on this issue. It's a crisis. It's coming, and it's going to take a lot of leadership from the state to figure out what we are going to do with our garbage and our recyclables. It doesn't just go away anymore.
No.
Pretty soon there's going to be very few places to send it. So I'm trying to work with Commissioner Katie Dykes. I received an email from her the other day. We're going to have a meeting to hash around some different ideas as to what could be a solution going forward. But it's a very difficult situation the state is in. I don't know if Devin, if you have any comments on that.
And to piggyback off that, I know the state is looking at ways to try to encourage folks to not throw away as many materials, particularly food waste. Food waste obviously adds to the
about 25% of waste is food waste.
Wow.
Staggering.
So, and that's something that could go into compost piles or things like that.
Exactly.
Also, an issue that's going to come up this legislative session is changing recycling. So one of the things that, and it's been an issue up there ever since I've been up there, is whether to add or increase the deposit fee on certain recyclable materials. So plastic bottles, glass bottles, adding that to sports drinks, teas,
wine bottles,
nips. Other states have added a deposit onto nips. Some people, particularly package store owners, don't like it because people could return nip bottles that are broken in half and dirty and things like that. But it is something, I know when you go for a walk, you oftentimes do see those nip bottles
everywhere.
Thrown.
Exactly. Everywhere. I see them running around town. I pick them up, I throw them in, put them in my running jacket. There's so many of them. Anyway.
So the state is looking at that too, how to get that out of the waste, because a lot of our recyclables end up getting thrown away anyways. Right. So getting people to bring that back, I mean, it's almost like we're going back in time.
Exactly.
To when everyone was going to the supermarket to redeem their plastic bottles and glass bottles and things like that. So the state's looking at potentially trying to go back to that to get more people to do that again, to remove recyclable waste from that stream.
We have to make it easier for people to recycle. Especially with an increased bottle bill. If people are going to return more bottles, they're not going to do it at Stop and Shop, one bottle at a time. There has to be a better way. I saw something on YouTube in San Francisco. They have these portable machines that go around and you put in your credit card and it debits your bank account, whatever it does. But that may be a little too high tech for Connecticut. But if you're going to increase all these fees, you've got to make it easier for people. I throw away a lot of my nickel cans, okay? You have to make it easier for people. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know how you do that. And organic waste, food waste, most people aren't going to compost. They're just not going to. We need more organic, we need more plants scattered around the state that can take food waste and convert it to energy.
Let's talk. Speaking of food, let's talk about the food tax.
Sure.
What's going on up there?
So last year, in last year's budget,
Yeah.
what became part of the budget was an increase on restaurant meals and prepared foods like things you'd buy at Pasta Vita or
Right.
Mystic Market. So that increased from 6.35% to 7.35%. Now, in the definitions, in DRS definitions, a prepared food can be a lot of different things.
Right.
A rotisserie chicken, for example, was considered a prepared food under their definitions. 5 or fewer bagels, 5 or fewer donuts, 1 banana, things like that, where the idea was, I guess,
Prepared food.
you would eat a 1 bagel at a restaurant, but if you had 6 or more, you'd take it home, so
Right.
you'd be
So-
eating it there. That is long-standing law from long before I was there. So when that budget was passed, increasing the tax from 6.35 to 7.35, a lot of things, I don't think that rotisserie chickens were taxed, I could be wrong,
Yeah, I know.
but people were very concerned that certain groceries that had not been previously taxed were now going to be taxed.
Excellent.
The Department of Revenue Services
Yep.
issued a retraction, but they said we do need to pass legislation. One of the pieces of legislation they actually proposed is getting that into statute that these specific items will not be part of that tax increase as restaurant meals and prepared foods are.
Devin Carney, thanks for coming down. We'll
Thanks
see you
so
soon.
much for having
Carl
me, Pete.
Fortuna, thanks for
Pete,
coming
thank
down.
you.
On behalf of Devin and Carl, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next time.